We'll get started here as soon as the last people sit down. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get it started. We're going to hold off on introductions because not quite everybody's seated yet. We're going to jump into the number 2 item on the agenda. Oh, I'm Andy Helby with the RDC. By the way, I should probably introduce myself. We've been asked to facilitate this process. A recap of meeting 2, which was 1 month ago, which is a long time. What happened in meeting 2? Basically, I think what I'll go instead is say what we've accomplished so far, which includes the things on meeting 2. I think really in meeting 1, we kind of defined what active living is, got everybody introduced to the idea, came to understand it. In meeting 2, we basically agreed that active living is a good thing. Nobody stood up and said this is active living is a bad idea. What level of those things are in and what that means is up to discussion, and that will be today's discussion. But basically, those are the 2 things we've done so far. Yes, sir.
I haven't been in either one of the meetings. I watched the video of the last meeting. I didn't want to see the first one, but I haven't found the definition of active living. Can you sum that up or put that together right now?
Active living, oh man, I hate when people call my bluff.
Well,
active living is the...
Active living.
Is active living. Active living is the being active as a regular part of your day. So active living means being able to be active in your community and being able to be active as part of your daily routine. That can translate to purposeful activities such as going to the workout center or simply walking to the grocery store instead of driving. A lot of what we talk about in active living, and I'll jump right into this, is infrastructure-based. Can you safely be active? And policy-based. Does the community support activity by their actions? And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. All right, so I believe we've basically defined active living and agreed that it is a good thing. So now we'll jump into recommendations, and we'll start with you. You're here at your first meeting. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
I'm Sam Montaigne, Assistant County Highway Engineer.
I'm Sue Haig, Cook County Commissioner.
I'm Joni Christensen, Cook County Public Health Nurse.
I'm Dave Turstig with the City of Grand Marais Parks and Rec.
Jerry Henniker, Safe Routes to School Coordinator for the school district.
Dave Betts, County Engineer.
Mike Roth, the City Administrator.
Teresa Borak, I'm a registered nurse at the Southwest Mountain Clinic.
Bob Duchette with Grand Port.
I'm Patty Wardall. I'm Director of Ridge Road Foundation out of County.
I'm Heidi Dukert, County Commissioner.
Brian Anderson, Minnesota Department of Transportation.
I'm Kristen Martin. I'm a registered nurse at the Sedgwick Mountain Clinic, and I coordinate the statewide health improvement program for Cook County and also the Moving Matters project. Lauren?
I'm Lauren Webb. I'm Lauren Webb. Sorry, you had to do this a little bit. I'm Lauren Webb. I'm the assistant project coordinator on the Moving Matters project at the clinic.
I'm Jan Severson, social introducer, people who figured out. Grand Marais City Council and Severson Gallup.
Tim Nelson, the County Planning Director.
Harris Mills from Grand Portage Wellness Center.
Great. I appreciate everybody coming today. Like I said, we have some new faces, and that's good. This process is intended to be able to be attended. Even if you can only make one meeting, it still should be valuable. Kristen, do you want to introduce the next item, the videos?
Sure. Some of the last...
No, sorry, introduce yourself, Patrick.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm Patrick. Videographer.
So, I'll come closer, then he can hear.
Oh, I get it.
Some of the feedback we got from last month's meeting was that it would be good to have bring to this group more of the community feedback that we're gathering, that the Moving Matters Project is gathering throughout the county. And we did that in the very first meeting with that planning through play, short video, community people's comments on the idea of walking and biking and active living. And so we're going to do that again. We've got a 5.5-minute clip and of a few different comments from people. The clips that you'll see came from several different events that we've held, and those were this planning through play type event. One was at the YMCA, one was at the Art Colony, one was at Birch Grove Foundation or Birch Grove Center, and one was at special request, which was held at the clinic with the clinic staff. So you'll see just a few comments from all of those gatherings, and what you'll see here represents 97 people's attendance at all these different community feedback sessions. In addition to those, the last month, I've also met with the Schroeder Township Board and the Lutsen Township Board, the Cook County Chamber of Commerce, and the Cook County Go Team. But those groups aren't reflected in these videos. But I did promise the Schroeder Board that I would share with you a couple of their key concerns because no one was able to be here today. So just very briefly, the key concerns that came from they're more like location-based concerns from the Schroeder Township Board are at the Cross River Heritage Center, there's a real concern about the bridge and the sidewalk that runs along the edge of the bridge. There's not a barrier between that sidewalk and the highway, and that's a concern that that community has of people darting out from the sidewalk into the lane of traffic. Also, at Father Baraga's Cross, they're seeing more and more traffic down there, both vehicle and pedestrian and bicycle, and they're concerned about how to safely manage that area. And there have been ideas brought up, like maybe putting some type of trail along that road, but there's also a concern of balancing the concern of people that own property in that area with the issue of putting a trail within that easement. And the other main concern that was voiced from Schroeder was the idea of, or was at the Temperance River Wayside. And the crosswalk that's there, I think many of you are aware that there has been a fatality there in the past, and a pedestrian fatality. And the concern is that crosswalk, that the Schroeder folks said that people assume that because there's a crosswalk that it's safe to walk, and they check their common sense and they just step out into traffic even if there's a vehicle coming. And the concern is that, how we can educate within our county about safe walking and biking and driving, but how do we get the message out beyond, for people who visit here, or if it's not possible to educate people that are visiting, how do we design those areas, the infrastructure, so that it's just intuitive, the way that drivers respond and people respond, to be more aware of each other. So that's what Schroeder said. And then I'll show you these video clips.
I work at the Toski General Store, and the big problem, like he was saying about the signs, that no one, specifically at that end of the existing bike trail, there's every single day someone that comes in that can't even figure out where it is. And it's right next to the highway, but there's no sign, and then they want to go to the other side of Tofty, because really to walk to Schroeder, it's only 4 miles. It's not that big of a deal. But you have to get from somehow through Tofty. You have to try to explain to them to go, leave our parking lot, go down by the outdoor pool, take the boardwalk, go through Bluefin. You have to zigzag all the way all over the place. So I don't know, that's an important thing for me, that there's just an easier way to get from one end of Tofty to the other, for people that don't know where they are.
Well, I looked at this as things that could be done to help the elderly, which is what I represent, get more activity, and by getting more activity, keeping themselves younger and healthier. So I listed some things that would help, like, for instance, more sidewalks in Grand Marais for safer walking for the elderly. A much better walking track at the Y. The one they've got is just not working. Extension of the Gitchigumi bike trail for safer biking. Resurfacing of the 2 old tennis courts for safer tennis, and also resurfacing the Lutzen tennis courts for better tennis. And it would help to have maps of local hiking trails so the elderly could get more exercise. Okay?
I just think about the guy who's got one of those, I forget, that's not a bike and he's not walking, but it's like a machine that he just propels forward in Grand Marais. I've seen him around.
Oh, the Segway.
Segway, right. So I just think about that guy and how he's using those things too, or like, there's all kinds of different, non-typical modes of transportation that these walkways or bikeways get used. Wheelchairs, reclined bikes.
People with strollers and small children, I get asked a lot, well, I want to go hiking, but I don't have a backpack for my baby, and where are paved paths? And, we think, oh, well, we like the unpaved paths, but not everybody does, and some people, it'll keep them from getting out and about if there isn't a more accessible path.
In order to be a little less driving community, I know that I did on my survey say, why can't I get bused to town?
I love that.
A school bus.
Yep.
I understand mixing adults and children may not be the best solution, but come on, we're here. We've got 35 miles.
Yeah.
If I got bused here, I know that I would walk everywhere I need to go at lunch or whatever and get bused home. And it just makes so much more sense.
I've noticed County Road 7 is a really big one. And when and if things ever get repaired or get, like you do a section or whatever, if we could start extending the shoulders a little bit, because I know a lot of people ride 7 and it's a little dangerous. And I'm sure there's other places where people are doing that too. So traffic routes that are already being utilized by all sorts of people might be.
Okay, my comments are more defined safe routes for pedestrians to move around the city of Grand Marais, especially in the areas of the schools. And also a way to control traffic flows and parking in congested areas, the school being and the Y being a really congested area right now. And also during busy times of the year, because we definitely have peaks and valleys, and figuring out how to manage that safely.
Because that's the main sidewalk from downtown to the Y. And I don't care what you say, there are cars going. I live right there.
Yeah.
I would love to just videotape how many cars go through there at high speeds with kids. And we see kids coming out all the time. You can't see them. They come between cars. There's going to be an accident. But now that the Y's here, there's more people going from downtown.
So you're seeing you're seeing a lot of traffic coming up.
And they're parking lot. So then that makes the road narrower. People can't see.
Yeah.
Especially these little guys, if they want the young kids to be coming up here. That intersection is very scary.
Well, that's just a small snapshot of the many comments, from almost 100 people, or no, it wasn't 100, 65 recently. And, I shut it off.
Don't do that. You're going to melt the cap.
Okay. We're going to be going out to Poland in March or April and doing something like this, and we're going to be up the Gunflint Trail later this month, most likely. And a lot of the gatherings we've been having are focused on attracting young families and younger people to the gatherings, because those are groups of people that we don't often hear from in public processes. But they're not limited to those groups at all, so you see we get a mix of people, which is really great. But we will also be making that extra effort in the next few months as well to talk to seniors. So if anyone has feedback, or you have a staff you want us to come meet with, or a community group, or a church group, anything like that, just let us know. We really would like to just keep getting out there to the community. Thank you.
All right. Now we're going to jump into number 4 on the agenda, which is process outcome review and discussion in your small groups. You were all assigned a table. Everybody's got about the same amount of people at each table. And we have recorders available. Who's going to do that recording? All right. So we got our 4 people. So we want to talk about, given what we've learned so far, and given some of the comments we've had, particularly at the second meeting, is talk about this group, which is titled the Active Living Policy Steering Committee, but it can be what the community wants. What outcomes would you want to see out of this process? And folks at tables that have participated maybe in all the meetings, maybe help out some of the ones that haven't been at all the meetings. What outcomes do you want to see at the process? And what product? At the end of my time here, meeting number 5, I think, what does this group want for a product? What's the result? So you can talk about outcomes, process outcomes, and bigger picture stuff, like as a result of this process, the community will be more active. But then also think specifically exactly what the end product of this group is after meeting 5. And we're kind of opening it up. We do have kind of what we said we thought we were going to do, but we want to double check with the attendees to make sure that that's what the community wants. So I'd suggest doing some brainstorming on bigger picture outcomes, even smaller picture outcomes if you want to talk about specific infrastructure. We talked a little bit about that at the first meeting. You can get those here. But then after looking at those process outcomes, by the end you'll want to come up with some sort of product statement for each group. And we're just going to kind of let you roll with this and leave it open. So folks that are natural-born facilitators, use your skills, and other folks help out with the brainstorming.
What kind of time frame?
We're going to give this a while. I'd say we're going to give it a good half hour even. So at 1 o'clock, we'll reconnoiter. And if people are done or you feel like you're creatively spent, just let us know and we can move it faster. All right? So what do you think the outcome should be, and what should the product be?
And somebody specifically in the role of, I think, walking coordinator or whatever that's we have our own. There needs to be a focused.
All right, when you're ready, tear off your sheets carefully and go ahead and stick them on the wall somewhere where we can all read them. Let's hear what you came up with. You can designate a spokesperson. All right, we're going to start with group number 4. You're going to speak first. We're going to go backwards.
Yes. All right. Let me see. I threw you under the bus right away.
Good.
Started with, I still want to define what active living is. We actually Googled the definition for it. It was incorporating activity into your lifestyle. Integrating physical activity into your daily life is basically what it came down to. So the reason we did that is a couple fold, because then we got into a couple other things. A written comment that we had gotten, and then I guess she made the comment she'd like to see a policy passed by basically all the local government entities that would encourage active living to be considered in all governmental decisions. The written one we got was that it should be a binding document and policy that binds government agencies and has teeth to it, that they have to do it. And the problem with that was that I said is, wait a minute, now we're forcing people to do something that we don't have a definition of what it is. My definition of active living may be something completely entirely different than somebody else's definition of active living. And so we better know what we're talking about first before we get into something that's binding. We talked about who and how do we pay for this active living process. We need to understand and make sure everybody else understands there's a cost to this. There's a cost involved. There's a cost involved with all of us sitting here having this meeting discussing it for 2 hours. We're all being paid by somebody from somewhere for our time, or we're volunteering our time, which means it's not being spent something else. So there's always a cost to it. So, and I think it's been determined at this point, as Sue said, this is a valuable process here. It's worth the cost, but moving forward, there's going to continue to be costs. Who pays for that and how? How do we raise a revenue stream off of active living to pay for active living infrastructure and active living policy?
Is that written down there?
What's that?
Is that written down there as using active living as a stream of possible fundraising?
Yeah.
And then Patrick has a great way to help us pay for it.
Yeah, Patrick, this comment was on, how do we make more people aware of this conversation that's going on in active living and keep more people involved. Sue's thought was it would really be nice to come out of this and have a list of possibly 5, holding the number, but simple, inexpensive, easy things to do. One of her examples is just the orange flags, the crosswalks at 61, that either encourage or can assist in active living in one way or the other. Then we got into, some of it may just be simple education, just encouraging and educating people about active living. And, I said shut the elevators off unless you're disabled, otherwise you have to take stairs.
Walk and talk.
Some people thought maybe it would be.
One at the courthouse, the apartment buildings?
Yeah, the apartment buildings. Anything that's got more than one level in a government
The
building,
churches?
they better have it. So,
But they're not they're not ones that are like, they're super easy, like people use them constantly. Like the Y one, I can imagine anyone ever use the Y one to get to the next level, but I did because it was fun. That's another issue.
and you do have to question going to the line, then adding the elevator.
How about tell them the walk and talk?
My kids would though.
Walk and talk meeting policy.
Yeah, and that's further down, but one of the things we did we write that down?
It's another way.
But yeah, talking about doing things like walk and talk meetings, which means put your coats on and we'll finish the rest of us outside.
All right, you heard me.
But, and again, it's more of an educational thing. There's not a cost involved, and obviously you're not going to do it for all meetings. If you have to put a PowerPoint up, it gets a little more difficult unless you've got iPads for all your employees, which I'm in favor of too. But
There's a cost to that.
There's a cost to that. We talked about and didn't come up with any real great ideas, but incentivizing active living, contests, prizes, so forth. Talked about Fitbit bracelets that actually are health monitors. They step up from the old pedometers that just tell you how many steps you take, check monitors heart rate and other things. So, maybe doing something like that. We got back to, again, on definitions, because I'm a stickler for it. Active living is not transportation. Last month's meeting, looking through it, got sidetracked a lot on transportation and mass transit and you know, how do we save transportation costs and how do we make transportation more efficient. Whether you ride in the car or you ride in the bus, you're not active. So I'm not arguing for the merits or against the merits of mass transportation. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying is that has nothing to do with active living, so that we need to be focused on active living.
But it does for those of us who live 20 miles away.
Yeah.
Because then we can come, take mass transit, and then we can walk when we're at our destination.
And my argument would be, you can drive in here, and then you can walk to all your destinations. Doesn't matter whether you ride a bus or you ride a car. It makes no difference active-wise.
It does in terms of incentive. Once you're in a place that you don't have that option to jump in a car, then
So then you're getting into,
But I understand.
your own self-discipline. And the fact of the matter is I can't fix that.
But I think that
And government can't fix that either, except through coercion, which if we want to coerce the government, we can go that way.
Well, I just want to add on that point. I don't want to get bogged down in that, but I think that, bicycling is considered part of the transportation system. MnDOT is right here telling us that they have a checklist that they have to consider bicycles and pedestrians in their projects. And I think that, personally, as a nurse and just a person who lives here, I would like to see that we look at those things when we are considering our transportation system. And there are people who walk for transportation, whether it's purely their enjoyment or whether it's because they have a DWI or whether it's because they don't have funds to own a car. And that's one thing we're hearing at these meetings is people want to be able to do that, and they want the infrastructure to reflect that as a value. So I think it does. I think it is part of our transportation. I think transportation plays in a big way.
I think that you can be active in your transportation, okay? But active living is not transportation. And that's where you get off sidetracked. Is to say that all transportation has to do with active living, and I don't think that's true at all.
Well, I'm not saying all transportation has to do with active living, but that's the approach that this project has been given. That's the whole aim we had from the beginning, and it wasn't my idea personally. It was from feedback from the community, from a lot of people that are here today, and a lot of people outside of here that they wanted to see that there were ways for people to walk and bike as a form of transportation, as a viable option, that the infrastructure made it easier and more accessible for them to do that, so that they're not taking their life in their hands in order to walk from their house to the post office.
Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, then that gets back to why I wanted active living defined better. We don't have it defined well enough to be able to say what that is.
I think active transportation or walking as a form of transportation is under the umbrella of active living. It's not exclusive. Active living to me does not mean walking from destination to destination for transportation, but it's under that umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
It's one focus, one way to be active. And I apologize that you've missed out on other meetings, but that has really been the emphasis of this group from the start. That's why Andy, as a transportation planner, is here guiding this process. But I don't diminish what you're saying at all, because I think that it's really important to define that. It's super confusing, not just here, but in the broader community, and we need to be clear about that.
Yeah, because even some of the comments that were played back didn't have a lot to do with active living. They had a lot to do with safe transportation.
Which has a lot to do with active living. I'm not going to let this go on any further, I guess, but if active living is not transportation, then I should probably quit my job. So I think we'll have to hash that out, but I would suggest we keep going through this.
Okay. Then we got into talking about, the consideration that we just talked about here, that you need to consider safety in the active living side of things too. The example I gave is do we want to encourage walking on our county highways where we got cars traveling at speeds of 50, 55 miles an hour, and within 2 feet of that passing car or truck is the mother with a toddler and then a baby in a stroller. Is that what we want to encourage, or is there a better way to do that? And so to look at those types of issues too. That multimodal transportation in general, it is best to be able to divide it and separate it, which Frank, you would agree with. I mean, that's one of the big issues is different speeds and different sizes of vehicles and transportation need to be separated, and that's an infrastructure issue. And then finally we talked about one possibility of revenue and funding and maybe crowdfunding, allowing people to go ahead and vote for ideas and things and possibilities with their dollars. So with the internet, that opens up a lot of possibilities, and that's something that can come out of this. There's ways to do that.
All right. Any questions or comments?
I just would like to offer a feedback that I felt like we were really fortunate to have Sam as part of our committee and asking some of these questions that are giving us maybe a little uneasiness right now, because if we're not able within this context of this group right now to answer those questions about how transportation fits into active living, and we're trying to promote it within the community, it tells me for myself I still have some work to do and some things to learn so that I can just fluently say why transportation is part of active living to other people, because we will get questioned. I know we will get questioned about that comment as committee, and how do we respond to it. So sometimes that uneasiness is okay, and what we just did right now, I like that happening, because if I can't figure it out in this kind of context, I'm going to make up my own answer probably, and it's not going to be right. I'll have a lucky day once in a while. Whatever, yeah. So thanks.
All right. Let's go ahead to group 3.
You're not going to put this, Dave.
Outcomes products, we're a little fuzzy between the two. It's kind of, they're all tied together, but we can take it from the top. This idea of thinking about active living when making decisions. It's come up again and again, some sort of mechanism for input. Jerry, the bike guy, is all about biking as transportation and recreation, so bike lanes, bike facilities, bike racks, workstations, restrooms. The whole idea of making bicycling and, of course, walking or other modes convenient and safe and accessible. Here's my cohesive voice that MnDOT listens to. We thank Brian for being in the room, and it's sort of the bigger group that has the 61 corridor that all these townships and communities are having to affect. So it's the idea of like a community voice, be it the commissioners or the counselors that can speak for the community and that MnDOT respects and listens to and makes changes to their plans as a result, which we've already seen happening. Future benefits are also considered along with the present conditions and the costs. When Dave Betts was talking about how they determine what needs to be fixed, it's kind of based real internally on the conditions and the budget. And there's not a mechanism for sort of outside the box if it's going to add benefit, the value-added benefits, how to weigh those. That's more down on the products end, we'll look at that. And then this kind of idea, Mike has would like to see a new approach to redo the old, not just go with the status quo, make some kind of, systematic and community-driven process that allows for input and affects change. And so products of this could be flexible guidelines. This was very much endorsed. No, binding, toothy policy that makes every project conform, but flexible guidelines for use when we're looking at planning and executing infrastructure projects. Jerry would like to see an active living department somewhere, some kind of idea of a central coordinator, continuing to be that point person that answers questions and directs ideas towards the right departments, but just a clearinghouse for information that you can always go to one person in particular and they're going to have the right answer or the right direction. And let's see, Dave Betts had a really great comment, sidewalks for streets and shoulders for roads. In essence, you know, it's like already in their department that's their goal. He doesn't necessarily want to reinvent that wheel. It's been his policy or his ideas, and it's right on with what we're going for. So, and here's a real crazy idea, but some kind of a matrix that you can, you know, scientifically plug in all your input and your benefits and your costs, and you know, it spits out the right answer.
Is the right answer yes or no?
It's like that ball that could be, you know, 8 ball. Ask again. So yeah, we could see some change, but overall, we also see that we've already got policy, or we've got good people in place trying to do good, and we don't want to necessarily reinvent the wheel.
Great. Any comments or questions?
Everybody loves flexible guidelines. I guess including me. I'm a little afraid of flexible guidelines, maybe in the same way that some people are a little afraid of rules. And it gets back to your group's comment about definitions. If we don't have a firm agreement on what these flexible guidelines are supposed to accomplish, then they won't work at all. So the nice thing about rules is it's hard to be out of agreement about what the rule means and intends to do. And since we're putting them on ourselves, that, you know, I said this at the last meeting too, or maybe it was the one before, I don't remember. We can self-rule without it being dictatorial. We get to decide. We can change it at any time. We can make it responsive to the community needs. But at least it's clear. It gets back to that concept, which I really appreciated from your group, of let's just be real clear about what we're trying to accomplish, what our definitions are. That I appreciate, first of all, the value that I think is really ingrained in this community about flexibility. I mean, we don't like people to tell us what to do. But I'm also afraid that, and I've seen many, many times where we've passed a resolution. For instance, the city council passed a resolution about active living a while ago. I personally haven't looked at it in a very, very long time. I don't believe any of the city councilors have. I don't know what it means or how we've incorporated it. That's what I'm afraid of happening. We just have flexible guidelines.
All right. And where are we? Table 2?
Table 2, our outcomes and products were very similar. Our outcomes is we would like to see a policy that supports safe walking and biking. The clinic currently uses a PDSA, which is Plan, Do, Study, and Act. And we'd like to see each entity try to do that. We'd like to see collaboration. Currently, quarterly, the city, the county, and the school get together and work on things. And I would like to see us bring more entities, such as the tribe, the township, and the clinic, and at least once a year on that committee, have active living be the focus, and just brainstorm and get some ideas from that. And then the product, we'd like a report or document that identifies the high priority areas and the good areas, so we can see what's working in this area and how do we make that part of the areas that we think have concern, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. And then we'd like to actually incorporate the PDSAs and recommend short-term solutions. I know, Mr. Betts, if I'm not wrong, we've talked about in front of the school, and you have ideas on things, and the school has different ideas. So we thought if we do this for 30 days, we're not saying forever, 30 days, then they form a habit, and then they see it's not the big ugly elephant in the room and it's not so bad.
Or if it doesn't work.
Or if it doesn't work, then we say, you're right, it doesn't work. And we come up with another plan. So that was our ideas.
All right, great.
I just wanted to elaborate a little more on the Plan, Do, Study, Act. It's a model that's used in the community health clinic, the Sawtooth Mountain Clinic, as a way to attempt some change and do it for a short period of time, review it, look at it again, and then tweak it or throw it out the window and try something new. So it's a recognized model that we could potentially use as a way to attempt some short-term changes or some changes like Heidi was mentioning, and see if that works. And if not, then we'll try something else. So.
Great. All right, group number 1.
Okay. Obviously, there's a lot of overlap. I was the writer and I wrote fast and long. But one thing that our group had that none of your groups had is we had Brian Anderson, a MnDOT representative, which really highlighted a really excellent piece. Now, if I can find it, let's see. Really about the process, and not just because I think several of us mentioned coming up with our list of recommendations and then handing it to someone like MnDOT or handing it to someone like one of our engineers. And Brian said, how about if we work together, or if, because there's certain expertise that these people bring that need to be there at the beginning stages, as well as, you know, it's not right just to hand them a list. It's much more effective to actually do some constructive brainstorming if everybody's in the room. And part of the beauty is everybody is in the room, so it's a great thing to do. So anyway, we said, you know, a lot of the same things, list of recommendations, that pedestrian perspective be part of all processes, and, you know, to improve, particularly when we're, you know, not just to go reinvent all of our roads, but particularly if we're spending the money on a new road or something, that the pedestrian viewpoint would be built into the plan, that we wouldn't miss an opportunity when we're already in the process. That we would prioritize higher than we've done in the past, so that we would really prioritize pedestrian transportation and just plain old for fun. And then blah, 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 planning, private zoning. So, you know, a lot of the details are there that we've already talked about. If I seem to gloss over some of these and you want to chime in and say, you missed a point. And add mechanisms for places like Lutz and Tofty, they're not incorporated. Evidently, there are mechanisms for incorporated places like Grand Marais to input these processes, but not necessarily a place like Lutz or Tofty. Okay, and here was it. Be sure to pull in the experts to add the right expertise and experience at the right place in the process, so that you're not going on and on. Developing good relationships in order to accomplish roadways that meet all needs, especially for pedestrians. And I think that's a big part of what this group is about, is getting to know each other so that we build those good relationships. And it's really nice that we have Brian here and everybody in the same room to get to know the faces and really understand, so we're not just acting on our own prejudices. You know, I think a lot of us here believe that MnDOT doesn't have any money, or the county doesn't have any money, or the city doesn't have any money. You know, a lot of us believe that there's lack of money. And a lot of that may be true, but it's a perception. And where I ended with that is that money follows dreams, not the other way around. And so if you don't dream it because you think there isn't the money, I think you really lose a huge opportunity to do a lot of great things. So I guess these aren't very concrete, because I'm not very concrete.
One of the things I remember from that part of the conversation too was like, if we collectively agree on certain priority areas for these dreams, you know, like whether it's areas that already get a ton of automobile and pedestrian and bike use, or whether it's a brand, you know, or it's somewhere that there's a safety concern. Anyway, if we agree on the dream project type areas amongst ourselves, then we're going to go a lot further with it versus like the city dreaming separate from the county, or you know what I mean. Like if we in talking about fundraising and money, that if we come together with mutual priorities and shared interests, we're going to be able to access different funding streams than we would if it was just kind of one or other.
Yeah, so maybe the outcome would be creating a shared dream that would be the guide for all the entities. That makes sense. Prioritize great safety concerns. I think that ties in with that, but not exactly. And you talked about the identifying the assets and priorities to keep and enhance pedestrian use, like the crop road, for instance, is one of those places. And create a process for public input in all roadway planning was one thing that we felt was missing. So that's that. But I think we kind of all talked about.
Yeah, there are some really good common themes.
Yeah,
It feels like anyway.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good. I think I'll take these home and sort out those common things and strategies and shake it out and see how it all washes out for the next meeting. One thing to think about, some homework. We talked about defining active living, and I think it's tough for me to define because I've been dealing with it so long. I just kind of accept active living as active living. Right? It's just what it is. But maybe we could look at it a little bit different way, and you could say, in your mind, what is a road? What is a street? What is a road? What is a highway? Or you could say, what is transportation? So I'll come up with some better definitions for active living based on what we've had and what we've done in the past meetings. But if people could think about what is a road and what is transportation in your minds and bring that to the next meeting, we can see where those things intersect. Okay, just real quickly, some things came up today in the videos and other places that people aren't aware of things, and this gets some of the public input things that we struggle with sometimes. Temperance River safety was mentioned. The North Shore Scenic Drive Council and a lot of partners have developed a redesign of the Temperance River wayside area. I haven't, to tell you the truth, I've never actually looked at it, but it is designed and funding could be sought for that. The Onion River wayside, the Ray Berglund wayside, the restrooms are getting constructed there, and there's a trail from that wayside going up the river that a lot of people don't know about. The Cascade River area, there was a redesign of that project, but that's really run into issues with historical significance and other things, and it's currently anticipated that Cascade River will not be resigned. There is a design of the Father Barragas Cross area going on right now, looking at adding facilities there that could play into some pedestrian things. The Gitchigami Trail through Tofty, right now a design of that trail segment is funded to take place in the fall of 2014. And right now, through federal dollars, primarily construction would happen in the summer of 2018. We don't know what that looks like whatsoever. But we have the design coming up this fall that people are going to want to pay attention to. And then unless the feds decide to change their funding process, but it is recommended for funding in 2018. I would anticipate that design as a combination of highway changes and routes on local roads. The Grand Marais Gitchigami State Trail extension, the Gitchigami Trail Association is at the legislature right now seeking bonding dollars to extend the Gitchigami State Trail to Cross River, Cutface Creek, sorry. That would not, it's unknown if that money will come through, but they are trying to get that funded. I was told by somebody that in Grand Marais here, there's a county road being redone and sidewalks were added to that project. Does that make sense?
No, they're just sidewalk project.
Okay, that's what it was. So I guess what I wanted to show is there are quite a few things going on in active living that maybe people aren't as aware of as they need to be. Yep.
And one of the things we didn't mention that we talked about is more communication about what is this kind of thing, because we don't know. And
right.
So what are the plans?
I think that's been loud and clear, and that's something that will definitely come out of this, is trying to ensure communication. Oh, the other project is the Helmet Hero project will be starting up this spring again. And ARDC has 2 bike safety instructors that will be going to 3rd grades around the region and providing them with a helmet and teaching bike safety. So you can watch for that to happen here in Grand Marais at some point. I'm not sure if Grand Marais is scheduled for the spring or next fall, but it will happen at some point. Any questions about these items? All right. All right, I did write down some things, but I think they're pretty much all mentioned in yours. I was trying to compare what I'd heard at the last meetings to what you came up with today, and they're pretty darn consistent, so. All right, next meeting, think about those definitions. It would be scheduled for April 3rd, I believe, Kristen?
Yep.
Maren, yes. Same time, same place. If anybody wants to verbally or physically abuse me, I'll be here after the meeting. Thanks, everybody.